Hello and welcome to Mexico News Network's Breaking News. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Elisa Carballo, and we have excellent information for you coming right ahead. Remember, Mexico News Network is your #1 source for reliable information on business and investments in the Americas, stock markets and bonds, and also corporate information on Mexico, so why not? Browse through our website on www.mexiconewsnetwork.com, our very own digital content platform. Now let's begin with today's main headlines. Economist Jim O'Neill came up with the term BRIC back in the year 2001, referring to the main emerging markets back in those days in the world, which in this case were Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Today, the world has shifted, and the rising and thriving world economies are now MINT, which are Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey. Now, the MINT group refers to countries that today he considers, Jim O'Neill this is, as the new emerging giants and titans of the world. The countries included in this group are Mexico, Indonesia, Turkey, and Nigeria, and he ensures that these nations will show a more significant economic growth over the coming years. These 4 countries that make up the group of MINT have many advantages, such as high population and an important geographical location in the case of Mexico, Indonesia, and Turkey. The specialist said that over the next 20 years, these nations will be those with most favorable domestic demographics and will produce a significant increase in the number of people who make up the national workforce, which is definitely something that several nations across the world actually envy. In addition, MINT countries have a great advantage in their geographical location. For example, Mexico is located right next to the United States while being right in the path axis in Latin America. Indonesia is located in the heart of Southeast Asia and has many strong connections with China. On the other hand, we have Turkey, which is a nation that is in the west and in the east at the same time. Now, despite being countries with great potential, the MINT nations still have some challenges to overcome. However, the economist does not rule out that someday these economies will become part of the top 10 global economies along the United States, Japan, and the BRIC nations. In more information, next year, Microsoft company plans to reach new market segments in Mexico, therefore gaining strength and growing within several sectors that include computer equipment, tablets, and mobile devices created by Mexican manufacturers. Mariano Vasquez, manager of local manufacturers of Microsoft Mexico, said that they've actually observed that there is a rising opportunity. This is leverage with local manufacturers around the country and target those places where technology is currently unreachable. All of this is definitely a win-win situation, both for Microsoft because they gain market in the nation and for Mexican producers who actually increase their productivity and employment rates overall. Microsoft executives said that he does not rule out the chance that they are seeing this opportunity exclusively from better prices compared to multinational competitors, as these equipments made by Mexican firms are actually meeting the needs of markets that they are currently trying to reach. As of today, Microsoft is working with an estimated of 10 domestic manufacturers in Mexico who integrate their softwares. However, the firm also receives support from other local companies. This is to define what is the segment that suits them to attack best. In addition to all of this, they are also provided with engineering support and assisted with the marketing work. One company that is working very close with Microsoft is Compax, which manufactures its equipment in Torreón, Coahuila, and according to its CEO, Sam Lozano, since they became strategic partners of Microsoft back in the year 2007, their sales increased from 1,000 equipments a year to 120,000 units only for the end of 2015. In more information, being one of the largest cities in the world and the most densely populated city in Mexico, it's pretty much a given that Mexico City has some disadvantages when it comes to transportation, especially when it comes to traffic, given that millions of commuters travel the main avenues of the city every single day. For all these reasons, the city is in desperate need of a solution. Could it be an alternative mode of transportation? Certainly, that is the solution engineer Rodolfo Zamorano Morfin and scientist René Drucker Colin have in mind for Mexico City. They're actually working on a life-size prototype of the Transporte Urbano Elevado Personalizado, or TUEP, Personalized Urban Elevated Transportation. This is a project that consists of cabin systems very similar to airlifting gondolas that travel in a non-congested space, the aerial space, of course. The TUEP is designed to simulate the interior of a car and could accommodate up to 3 passengers for each cell. The system works autonomously without chains or cables and travels through a tubular trail. It's very similar to a monorail, however, it has a unique characteristic. This system does not have one point of departure and is actually have one point of arrival. The idea is to have a system with many stops or stations, and this way the user can decide where to start and finish their trip. Another very interesting advantage of the TUEP is that the production and performance costs are very low in comparison to other systems of massive transportation. Now, the TUEP is almost ready for its first passenger test. However, they've been putting the system on different operating tests, contingency tests, extreme weather resistance, and also a continually improving the system and the gravitational elevator. In more news, just a few days ago, the free internet service from Facebook, which is called Free Basics, was launched in Mexico together with Virgin Mobile, which was the carrier who expressed their interest in the service. Now, this platform and service will bring people closer to technology, given that close to half of the people in the country don't have access or can't really afford internet service. Now, back in the year 2013, Mark Zuckerberg shared the intention of creating a platform that could provide free connectivity to the people who lack from the service. Ever since then, Free Basics has been able to connect over 1,000 million people, mainly in the African continent. Now, the service is available in Mexico, which is the 31st country to have such access. Now, in Mexico, many people live in rural and distant areas which have zero to none telephone service, which means there is also little to no internet service. Now, the launch of such platform and service would literally change these people's lives by giving them an entry part of the online world. Free Basics is an online platform and Android app that allows limited access to free content from basic websites with information on health, education, news, employment, finances, and communication. Connecting Mexico is personally important to me. I have a lot of friends and neighbors with family over there, and many members from Priscilla's family work in Mexico, stated Mr. Zuckerberg. According to him, studies have confirmed that from every 10 people living in poor conditions and gain internet access further along their lives, at least one of them will come out of those conditions, noting that such initiative is of great importance and could represent an enormous change in people's lives. As for now, Free Basics can only be accessed through the app or entering the website on a phone with a Virgin Mobile chip. However, the company is not closed down to adding other carriers into this initiative. In fact, the more the merrier, for instance. This way more and more people will gain access to the new and wonderful online world. Now, moving along to Mexico's economic indicators. Mexico's IPC index increased 1,050 points or 2.51% to 42,905.20 on Tuesday, December 15th, from a 41,901.96 in the previous trading session. Looking back, Mexico's IPC index gained 2,727 points or 6.78% during the last 12 months, from a staggering 40,225.8 points in December of the previous year, 2014. Now, historically, the Mexico stock market IPC index reached an all-time high of 46,357.24 in September of 2014 and a record low of 14,008.20 in August of 2005. Now, the gross domestic product in Mexico was actually worth $1,282.72 billion in the year 2014. The gross domestic product value of Mexico actually represents 2.07% of the entire world economy. Gross domestic product in Mexico averaged to $390.83 billion from 1960 up until 2014, reaching an all-time high of $1,282.72 billion in 2014 and a record low of $13.06 billion in 1960. And finally, the US dollar versus the Mexican peso decreased to 0.0186 or 0.11% to 17.11 on Wednesday, December 16th from 17.11 in the previous trading session. Now looking back, the US dollar versus the Mexican peso gained 2.285 or 15.43% during the last 12 months. All of this from a 14.81 in December of 2014. Historically, the Mexican peso reached an all-time high of 17.39 in December of 2015 and a record low of 0.01 in May of 1972. Sadly, this was all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, you were watching Breaking News by Mexico News Network. I am your host, Elisa Carballo, and it's been great having you. We'll see you next time.